citizens of the Reject Nation, patriots of the brave new world. It is Coy Jandreau John Humphrey. We are at the beautiful Century City AMC to see Captain America Brave New World in IMAX. That's right, they brought us out. It's our favorite format in which to see a movie, and it definitely added something to this experience just off the top before we dive into everything. Those moments where the aspect ratio changes were quite dazzling, and so if you are seeking this movie out, absolutely worth the trip to IMAX. Also, it's absolutely worth a trip to rejectnationshop.com because we got these brand new Richards Road t-shirts as well as the Spectacular Spider Club. This is here. I'm going to give this to you. That's yours. But you can get your own. There's a whole bunch of different colorways and whatnot. We also got the Agatha and the Scarbucks. We got a whole bunch of good stuff. So check out rejectnationshop.com. But what we're really here to talk about, what you guys want to know about, is how is Captain America Brave New World, Anthony Mackie's first feature film leading performance as Sam Wilson. Coy, I'm going to read the synopsis of the movie off of IMDb.
I'm ready.
To keep us straight, and then we'll go into some quick thoughts before we tear this thing asunder, or tear into all the delicious morsels it had to offer us. Sam Wilson, the new Captain America, finds himself in the middle of an international incident and must discover the motive behind a nefarious global plan. Perhaps thwart a potential New World Order? Who knows?
Perhaps.
Anyhow, Coy, you're the Marvel expert. What were your expectations going in? How did this live up to that?
Expectations were high because I really, really think that the Sam Wilson character, when is handled correctly in the comics, is fascinating. And I think that there were moments that I really could see where Anthony Mackie was going at the character. I think Anthony Mackie's take on Sam Wilson is so interesting because they actually use a couple lines of dialogue about the importance of Sam Wilson versus Steve Rogers and the difference in Captain's America. And I really, when they were looking into that, was fascinated. When they were looking at the distinction between his vision of the world and Thunderbolt Ross's, that was fascinating. When they were looking at all of the political intrigue that they teed up, I was all in. It became a problem when the teeing up was as far as they went. So I really liked the beginning of the teases, and I really found myself drifting in and out of my conviction with the film in the same way that I feel like in the film's production, it did have a number of we've heard about reshoots, we've heard about things, and I hate when I'm watching the movie and can feel that, because to me, once you're in the movie, it's hopefully immersive enough that everything that led to it is gone and you're able to be in the movie. But unfortunately, there were moments where I'd hear an ADR ping or I'd notice a plot line. I was like, where'd that go? And that hurt the good performances by Anthony Mackie, Harrison Ford, the incredible turn as Falcon. I really enjoyed. That was a big surprise joy because I'm not as attached to Falcon in the comics when it's not Sam Wilson. And here I was like, oh man, I get
Joaquin Torres.
Yeah, when Joaquin Torres took over, the art by Acuna is beautiful in the comic books. But I was like, okay, that's an interesting take, but I'm not as invested. Here, I get the new Falcon take. So that is a testament to what the story could and had been. And I also think that it touched on stuff when it should have grabbed it.
Absolutely. I think this movie needed two things, and those are rhythm and finesse, because this had a lot of ideas that I was really enjoying getting at in some way, shape, or form, but oftentimes I would find that, it's the kind of dialogue that is mostly talking about the plot and clearly stating the themes, and I feel like if they had really leaned into some of that flavor that you got from something like The Falcon and The Winter Soldier, perhaps, you see more of Sam Wilson, I feel like, in a show like that, and granted, it's a show, but even those are a little truncated at times, or don't, distribute their time as wisely as they could. Here, I feel like we could have benefited from some of that because the best part of the movie to me was just the cast, especially Anthony Mackie. I really liked his energy, and I liked a good amount of the discussion of how and why he is still, trying to uphold this mantle of Captain America. What does it mean? And what does it mean in a world, post a celestial rising from the sea, post multiversal weird incursions and things like that, post Sokovia Accords and all these different things. Not to mention having to both work with and also clash with the president, with whom he has substantial history. You have a great opportunity to at least do some exploring of this true spirit of America versus government versus politics, all that stuff. You get a certain glimpse at the global scale of the Marvel universe as we know it, and Sam Wilson's place in it as a non-super soldier serumed up, piece on the board, and I feel like there's so much interesting stuff to do there, and to bring it back to, again, Captain America seems like you want to have a geopolitical espionage
Conspiracy
thriller tone of some kind. This movie had moments and flashes of that. In the first act, I was quite worried because the first act was very much, it was very stiffly written, and it, again, felt like we're clearly stating themes and we're clearly stating plot points, and that's the characterization. And, once we got into the middle, there were certain aesthetic flourishes that I think really harkened well to that older era of 70s, 80s, 90s political thrillers and whatnot that you want. And there are times, especially later into the movie, where the action gets more punchy and impressive. But yeah, there's just a lot of stuff that feels very stitched together, and it's my complaint that I've had with every one of these more politically adjacent Marvel Cinematic Universe endeavors since, Civil War, is basically like every time I feel like they're trying to flirt with commenting on society or making some level of political idea articulated through their work, it seems like those are the projects that inevitably get most derailed, defanged, reworked. Falcon and the Winter Soldier had that, Secret Invasion seemed to have that, and this certainly feels like it has that, and there are little moments of debate and themes.
And those are so fascinating. When they do dabble into it, I kept being like, oh, we're getting there. And I do agree, the first act was where I was like, oh, no. And once it hits the ground running, I definitely got more and more into it, but I can't shake that first act making me concerned because that is a part of the runtime, part of the experience. But I do think the ideas they posit really set up an interesting journey for Captain America, because I want to give credit to the fact that this is a first film with a new Captain America. Legacy characters are hard because when we had Captain America 1, the first Avenger, that was phase 1. It was a novelty to even see, and the idea of him becoming Captain America took a montage, took a journey, took him really coming out of the ice to feel the import. Sam Wilson had to get thrown into this. So there's already a very tricky thing of like, the world already has heroes. What's this guy as a guy doing? What's Sam Wilson going to do? And they do touch on that. And those are the moments I found interesting. I just struggled when they would like have an interesting idea and then be like, well, that's enough of that idea. And then it would lead into things that weren't as interesting.
Yeah, and it would get back to being a kind of basic action thriller. And I think the other trouble you land in is you want maybe some type of statement to be broached, but more so than that, you want to feel like there's a big mystery at hand, and you want to feel like someone is really pulling the strings in an all masterminding kind of way, and it's just not that smart of a movie, and I feel like that ultimately betrays what we're here to do. And it's not like these have to be the most politically relevant, deep, and earth-shattering conversations, but at this point I would almost rather they just risk saying something and maybe upsetting people, or maybe it not going off quite right, instead of like almost trying to approach saying maybe a thing but not quite, and coming up with a soup out of it all. I mean, like, there's so much great work from the cast. Like, again, Anthony Mackie is great, Danny Ramirez. They're really fun to watch together. It makes you wish they would give them some actual character moments.
I liked Harrison Ford more than I expected.
Harrison Ford is clearly...
And I love Harrison Ford, by the way. I love Harrison Ford.
He is here, and he showed up, and he is a substantial part of this movie, and he was more of a character with more of a actual storyline rather than a plot obstacle than I was expecting.
And the Red Hulk stuff is pretty cool.
Yeah, and I really liked his takes, and I really like, there's something really special about hearing Harrison Ford say adamantium.
Yeah.
Which they've revealed that is not a spoiler, but that was just such a comic moment. It was so special. So I do think overall it is worth the experience, it is worth the journey, but be aware that it has to be warmed up into, and there are things that I would have done differently.
Yeah, and there are characters that could have been resolved better. I will say, Carl Lumbly, absolutely the MVP. Terrific. Like, he's not in a ton of the movie, but he is there, a prominent presence, and it was a joy to see him in Falcon and Winter Soldier. He brings great work and great energy to this, and I would love if he's a big part of the personal reason that Sam is involved with this story, and I would love to see that relationship continue beyond this point, especially for all the shit they've put that character through.
Truly, and more Danny Ramirez.
Giancarlo Esposito is also in the movie. Forgot to mention him. He's more anecdotal to the plot than a major part of the themes or story of the movie. He's good. It plays to a lot of his strengths as we've seen them in especially antagonistic and villainous settings. Certainly would be fun to see him return. He's clearly having a good time, and that's always fun to watch, but certainly more like one of those incidental characters they throw in just to kind of broaden out the map. It makes sense for Captain America to run afoul of this guy, and similar skill sets, and a ne'er-do-well like a Crossbones or something like that, who's going to come through from time to time, cause a ruckus. Captain America's got to take him down and throw him back in jail. But the next time on that one, I hope they make good on.
Well, that is going to do it, Reject Nation. We appreciate you very dearly. Let us know in the comments what you think of Captain America Brave New World, and buy some shirts.
Last night, I was sitting where you are, not in this theater, but in another one, unaware of what I was going to experience. And so I know something that you don't know, which is rare because you're all much more informed than I am. It was my privilege to be a part of this. I was happy to be a part of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. That was a great surprise. And then being invited to be a part of what you are about to see was a greater surprise. And then seeing what I saw last night was an even greater surprise. So I'm exhausted now from being surprised. And I'm hoping that you have the same level of experience that I had across the board watching this terrific, terrific project. All right? So without further ado, I know you're ready to go. Enjoy Captain America, Brave New World.
Thank you.